Daphne Lockwood's perfect life didn't end quietly. It shattered, loud enough for Manhattan to hear. One moment she was the polished daughter of New York's most respected black old money family. The next, she was standing in a rooftop bar watching her 5-year relationship implode in front of half the city. By morning, she was a headline. By week 3, she was a ghost. And on the night she finally stepped back into the world, she walked straight into the arms of the most dangerous man in New York. The sound hit first, a sharp crack that sliced through the music and froze the room. Daphne Lockwood stood in Manhattan's newest rooftop bar, watching crystalline shards scatter across Italian tile as her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, jerked his hand back from the woman he'd been touching. Not just any woman. The woman he'd been photographed with 3 months ago. The woman his publicist had called a colleague. The woman who was now very clearly, very visibly pregnant. Daphne, Tristan started, his polished voice cracking on her name. She didn't wait to hear the rest. She turned on her Louboutin heels and walked straight into the humid June night, her best friend Simone catching up to her on the sidewalk. Daph, wait. Don't. Daphne's voice came out steady, controlled, every bit the daughter of Harrison and Claudette Lockwood, one of the few black families who'd navigated their way into New York's old money circles and stayed there for 3 generations. Her family didn't make scenes. They didn't cry in public. They certainly didn't let people see them bleed. But she was bleeding. 5 years. 5 years of being the perfect girlfriend to the perfect man, Harvard MBA, legacy family, a face that belonged on magazine covers promoting financial literacy or luxury watches. 5 years of society pages and charity galas and her mother's approving smiles. 5 years that had just revealed themselves to be built on lies so extensive they had a child. The blogs are going to eat this alive, Simone muttered, scrolling through her phone as they climbed into an Uber. There are already photos from the bar. Daphne closed her eyes and leaned her head back against the seat. Of course there were. In their world, everything was content. Every heartbreak was a headline. Every private devastation became public entertainment by sunrise. Her phone buzzed. Then again. And again. Are you okay? I saw the pictures. Call me when you can. Your mother called me, she's worried. She turned it off. 3 weeks later, Daphne had become a ghost. She'd stopped attending events, stopped posting, stopped being the Daphne Lockwood that people expected, polished, present, perfect. Her parents were concerned. Her mother kept leaving voicemails about holding your head high and showing them you're stronger than this. Her father had offered to have his lawyers destroy Tristan professionally. She'd declined. She just wanted to disappear. Absolutely not. Simone stood in Daphne's Upper East Side apartment, hands on her hips, staring at Daphne's 3rd consecutive night in silk pajamas. You're not letting him win like this. I'm not letting him anything. I'm just existing. You're hiding. There's a difference. Simone grabbed Daphne's hand. And tonight, you're coming with me. Simone. Non-negotiable. A new club is opening in Soho. It's exclusive, it's gorgeous, and nobody from the Plaza Circuit will be there. Just beautiful people, good music, and enough tequila to make you forget Tristan's whole bloodline. Daphne looked at her reflection in the darkened window, soft brown skin looking dull from too many nights crying, her natural curls pulled into a messy bun, her curvy frame drowning in expensive loungewear. She barely recognized herself. Maybe that was the point. Fine, she heard herself say. But I'm not staying long. The club was called Velvet, and it lived up to its name, all shadow and crimson light, velvet booths tucked into alcoves, and a sound system that made the bass feel like a second heartbeat. Daphne let Simone pull her through the crowd, past beautiful people dancing like they had no tomorrow, past the VIP section where bottles glowed with sparklers. She felt nothing. Just numb. Until she saw him. He stood near the far end of the bar, partially obscured by shadow, but somehow commanding every inch of space around him. Tall, easily 6'3" or 6'4", with a build that suggested brutal efficiency rather than vanity. He wore all black, dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to reveal forearms covered in intricate tattoos, expensive slacks that fit perfectly, dark hair styled back in a way that looked effortless and probably wasn't. But it was his face that stopped her breath. Dangerously beautiful. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. The kind of face that made smart women make stupid decisions. The kind of face made for films about men who shattered rules and left hearts in ruins. He was speaking to someone, a nervous-looking manager type, but even as he listened, his gaze drifted across the room and locked onto hers. Everything stopped. The music continued. The crowd kept moving. But Daphne felt pinned in place by the weight of his attention, by the way his expression shifted from impassive to something darker, hungrier, as his eyes traveled slowly down her body and back up. She'd dressed to disappear tonight, black silk dress that hugged her curves, minimal jewelry, her natural hair in soft curls around her shoulders. But under his gaze, she felt seen in a way that made her skin flush hot. "That's Jin-soo," Simone whispered in her ear. "Hon Jin-soo. He owns this place. Among other things." "Other things." Simone gave her a meaningful look. "Let's just say the club is the legitimate part of his portfolio." Daphne should have looked away. Should have turned around and left. Should have recognized danger when it stared at her with eyes that promised both salvation and ruin. Instead, she grabbed a champagne flute from a passing server, drained half of it in one swallow, and walked directly toward him. She'd never done anything like this in her life. Daphne Lockwood didn't approach strange men in clubs. She didn't act on impulse. She didn't take risks with her reputation or her safety or her carefully constructed life. But Daphne Lockwood's carefully constructed life had just imploded. And maybe, just maybe, that meant she could be someone else for one night. He watched her approach with an expression that gave nothing away, but she saw the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw tightened as she stopped directly in front of him. Up close, he was even more devastating. A small scar along his jaw added character to features that might otherwise be too perfect. "I want one night where I'm not myself," she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Can you give me that?" His eyes searched hers, looking for something. "Do you know who I am?" "My friend said you own this club." She tilted her head. "Should I know more than that?" Something flickered in his expression, amusement, maybe, or appreciation. "No." He set down his drink and stepped closer, close enough to catch the scent of amber, leather, and something darker underneath. "One night. That's all I'm offering." His hand came up to cup her jaw, thumb brushing across her cheek with surprising gentleness for someone who looked like he could break the world in half. "Then let's make it count." They didn't make it to his penthouse. The private room behind the VIP section felt like another world: plush leather, soundproofed walls, and a skyline that glittered like scattered stars. Jin-soo closed the door, and before Daphne could take her next breath, he was there, crowding her space with a certainty that stole the rest of her air. This wasn't soft. Wasn't careful. Nothing like the measured affection she'd known with Tristan. This was raw. Urgent. Unfiltered. Jin-soo kissed like a man who understood strategy and surrender in equal measure, reading every shift in her breath, every tremor in her hands. His touch traced the lines of her body through silk, learning her shape with a focus that made her knees weaken. When she gasped, he caught the sound with his mouth, deepening the kiss until the room, the city, her own name, all of it blurred. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her skin, his voice low enough to vibrate through her. "If you want me to." Daphne fisted his shirt and pulled him closer. "Don't stop." Something in him broke loose. The next moments were a rush, the world narrowing to heat and urgency as distance disappeared between them, his breath warm against her cheek as he lifted her with effortless strength. He carried her to the leather sofa, setting her down with a reverence that contrasted sharply with the intensity burning in his eyes. "Beautiful," he said, the word roughened by emotion. "You're unbelievable." No one had ever looked at her like that, like she was art and danger and salvation all at once. Like her softness wasn't something to hide but something powerful enough to bring a man like him to his knees. What happened next wasn't gentle, but it wasn't careless either. It was connection sharpened to a point, every breath shared, every glance a conversation. He stayed close, watching her reactions, adjusting with a precision that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in weeks. "Look at me," he said, and she did, meeting the dark intensity of his gaze as emotion built between them, bright and overwhelming. When the tension finally broke, it did so all at once, breath, voice, and heartbeat colliding in the same instant. Afterward, they lay tangled on expensive leather. Daphne waited for regret to settle in. It didn't. Jin-soo traced slow patterns along her hip, his breathing steadying, and she felt grounded. Present. Alive. One night, she whispered. His hand paused. If that's what you want. It wasn't. She knew it. But she said, yes anyway. One night became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became weekends where she'd show up at his Tribeca penthouse with wine and takeout, where they'd cook together, he was surprisingly skilled with a knife, where they'd talk until sunrise about everything and nothing. One night became her toothbrush in his bathroom, her favorite tea in his cupboard, her silk robe hanging next to his in the closet. One night became something she didn't have a name for. This is just physical, she told him one Saturday morning, wrapped in his sheets while he brought her coffee exactly how she liked it. Jin-soo set the mug on the nightstand and looked at her with eyes that saw too much. If you say so. I'm serious. We're not dating. He sat on the edge of the bed, still shirtless, tattoos on full display in the morning light, a phoenix across his shoulders, intricate patterns wrapping around his forearms. No. We're just 2 people who text every night, who know how each other takes coffee, who've memorized each other's tells. Heat crept up her neck. Jin-soo. I'm not arguing with you, Daphne. He brushed a curl away from her face. You can call this whatever makes you comfortable. But the way he looked at her said he knew. They both knew. She was lying to herself. Daphne left Velvet late on a Thursday night, heading toward the private exit Jin-soo had shown her weeks ago. The main floor was still packed, but this hallway was quiet, dim, the bass from the club reduced to a distant pulse. She was thinking about Jin-soo, about the way he'd kissed her goodbye, about whether she should just admit this was more than casual, when a large hand grabbed her arm and yanked her sideways. Hey, beautiful. The man was huge, easily 6'5" and built like he moved furniture for a living, reeking of whiskey and aggression. Where you going so fast? Daphne's heart slammed against her ribs. Let go. Just wanna talk. Let go. The voice came from behind her, quiet, cold, absolutely lethal. Jin-soo. The temperature in the hallway dropped 20 degrees. The drunk man's grip loosened immediately, his face going from aggressive to confused to absolutely terrified in the span of a heartbeat. He looked past Daphne to Jin-soo and all the color drained from his face. I said, Jin-soo repeated, stepping into view. Let go. The man released her arm like it had burned him. Then, and this was the part that would haunt Daphne's dreams, he dropped to his knees. His hands started shaking. His breath came in stuttered gasps. Mr. Han, he choked out, voice cracking with fear. I'm sorry, I didn't know she was with you, please, I didn't mean. Daphne stared. This man was huge, intimidating, the kind who started fights in bars and won them. But he was on his knees, trembling, begging. And everyone else in the hallway, security guards, staff, even the bartender restocking glasses, had stepped back. Not out of respect. Out of fear. Jin-soo's expression remained perfectly calm, but his eyes were ice. The kind of cold that didn't need heat to burn. The kind of cold that promised consequences without raising a single finger. He didn't move. Didn't touch the man. Just looked at him. The silence stretched like razor wire. Finally, Jin-soo spoke, voice soft enough that Daphne had to strain to hear. If I ever see you in my establishment again, you won't walk out of this place. Do you understand? Yes, Mr. Han, I understand. Get out. The man scrambled to his feet and practically ran for the exit. Jin-soo turned to Daphne, and his entire demeanor shifted, from lethal to gentle in a heartbeat. Are you hurt? She couldn't speak. Couldn't process what she'd just witnessed. This wasn't just a club owner handling a drunk patron. This was something else entirely. Something that made grown men drop to their knees and beg. Something that made security guards step back rather than intervene. Jin-soo had power. Real power. The kind that operated in shadows and didn't show up on tax returns. Daphne. He stepped closer, hand gentle on her elbow. Did he hurt you? No. Her voice came out shaky. No, I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was realizing that the man she'd been sleeping with, the man she'd been falling for, was dangerous in ways she'd barely begun to understand. Jin-soo must have seen something in her expression because his jaw tightened. Let me take you home. I can get an Uber. Daphne. Just her name, said with enough finality that she stopped arguing. He walked her to his car, a black Audi that screamed quiet, expensive power, and drove her to her apartment in silence. At her door he said, "I'll wait until you're inside." She hesitated, key in hand. "Jin-soo, what? Who are you really?" His expression shuttered. "You know who I am. I know you own a club. I know you have money. But that man, he was terrified of you. He should be." No apology in his voice. No explanation. Daphne swallowed hard. "This is good. That we're a secret. It's safer this way." Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, maybe, or resignation. "If that's what you need to believe." "For both of us," she insisted. He nodded slowly. "Good night, Daphne." She went inside and leaned against the closed door, heart pounding. "It's good we're a secret," she told herself. "My family can never know. This can never be public." But even as she thought it, she knew the truth. She wasn't protecting both of them. She was protecting herself. Daphne told herself she was pulling back. She lasted 4 days before she was back in his penthouse, tangled in his sheets, admitting without words that she couldn't stay away. They fell into a rhythm that felt dangerously close to domestic, him cooking her breakfast, he made incredible bibimbap, her stealing his hoodies, both of them pretending this was casual while learning each other's moods with frightening accuracy. Jin-soo never pushed. Never demanded she acknowledge what they were. Just held her afterward, fingers tracing patterns on her skin, and let her lie to both of them. "My mother's hosting a fundraiser next week," she mentioned one Sunday morning, watching him make coffee in nothing but black boxer briefs. The morning light gilded the tattoos on his back, a phoenix rising from flames, beautiful and terrible. "For literacy programs." "That's good work." He didn't turn around. "She asked if I was bringing anyone." His shoulders tensed, just slightly. "What did you tell her?" "That I wasn't." Daphne pulled the sheet tighter around herself. "It's better if we keep this separate. You understand." He poured 2 mugs, doctored hers with cream and sugar without asking, and brought them both to bed. "I understand," he said quietly. But the cold clarity in his eyes made her feel like a coward. She started learning more about him through observation rather than conversation. Jin-soo didn't talk about his work, but pieces emerged anyway. The club was legitimate, profitable, popular. But sometimes men came to see him in the private office, men who looked like they'd stepped out of crime films, and Jin-soo would tell her to wait in the penthouse upstairs. Sometimes his phone would ring at odd hours and he'd step away, returning with an expression that said someone had just made a very bad mistake. Simone did research. "He's connected," she told Daphne over brunch in Soho. "Like, connected. Korean syndicate, operates in NYC, has fingers in things that definitely aren't in the business license for Velvet." Daphne's stomach dropped. "Are you sure?" "Daph, the man makes people drop to their knees with a look." "Yes, I'm sure." Simone leaned forward. "But here's the interesting part, he's also apparently a silent partner in half the companies our parents invest in. Hedge funds, real estate groups, that new luxury brand your mom loves. He's got legitimate money too." Why would he hide that? Maybe because being known as dangerous keeps people in line. Simone paused. Or maybe because he doesn't care what people think. Unlike Daphne, who cared desperately. 3 months in, Daphne had her own drawer in Jin-soo's dresser. Her own shelf in the bathroom. Her favorite wine stocked in his fridge. They had inside jokes. Routines. She knew he was left-handed with chopsticks but right-handed with everything else. He knew she couldn't function before her second cup of coffee. They'd memorized each other's bodies, what made her gasp, what made him groan, exactly how to take each other apart and put each other back together. They were in a relationship. They just weren't calling it that. "Come to the fundraiser with me," she said one night, the words escaping before she could stop them. Jin-soo looked up from his laptop, surprise flickering across his features. "What?" "My mother's literacy fundraiser. Come with me." He studied her face. "As what?" The question hung between them like a blade. "As my boyfriend," she wanted to say. "As the person I think about constantly. As the man I'm falling in love with. As my friend," she heard herself say instead. His expression shuttered. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" Because I can't stand next to you as your friend, Daphne. His voice was quiet but firm. I can't watch you introduce me like I'm nothing while your family smiles and asks about your dating life. Shame burned through her chest. Jin-soo. I'm not asking you to choose. He closed the laptop and stood. I know what I am. I know I don't fit in your world. But I won't pretend to be less than what we are just so you feel comfortable. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the Manhattan skyline. Daphne wanted to argue. Wanted to defend herself. But he was right, and they both knew it. She was ashamed of what he did. Ashamed of his tattoos. Ashamed of the whispers that would follow if anyone from her world saw them together. She was ashamed of being ashamed. I should go, she whispered. He didn't turn around. If that's what you want. It wasn't. But she gathered her things and left anyway, and when the door closed behind her, she cried the entire elevator ride down. She stayed away for a week. It was torture. Her bed felt too big. Her coffee tasted wrong. She kept reaching for her phone to text him about stupid things, a funny sign she'd seen, a song that reminded her of him, the way the sunset looked over the Hudson. Her mother noticed. You look tired, darling, Claudette Lockwood said over lunch at their usual restaurant. Elegant as always in Chanel, her mother had the kind of beauty that made people do double takes. High cheekbones, flawless dark skin, silver-streaked hair styled in a chic bob. Are you sleeping enough? I'm fine, Mom. You're not fine. You've been fine since Tristan. Her mother set down her fork. I know that hurt you. But you can't hide forever. I'm not hiding. Then what are you doing? Falling in love with a man I'm too scared to claim. Figuring things out, Daphne said instead. Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Whatever you're figuring out, know that your father and I support you. We always will. Daphne's throat tightened. Even if I made choices you didn't agree with? Even then. Claudette's smile was soft. We trust your judgment, sweetheart. You've never let us down. Daphne went home and cried again, because the weight of that trust felt unbearable. She made it 9 days before she broke. Jin-soo opened his penthouse door looking like he hadn't slept well either, hair disheveled, wearing the same Harvard t-shirt she'd left behind, ironic, considering neither of them had gone there, eyes cautious. Hi, Daphne said. Hi. Can I come in? He stepped aside wordlessly. The penthouse felt the same but different. Her tea was still in the cupboard, but the mug she always used had been washed and put away. Her robe was still hanging in the closet, but it looked like it hadn't been touched. Like he'd been waiting to see if she'd come back. I'm sorry, she said, turning to face him. For what I said. For how I've been treating us. Jin-soo crossed his arms, leaning against the kitchen island. What are we, Daphne? I don't know. Honesty felt like stepping off a cliff. But I know I missed you. I know I've been thinking about you constantly. I know I'm scared of what people will think, but I'm more scared of losing you. He didn't move, but something shifted in his expression. I can't be your secret. I know. I won't hide who I am to make your family comfortable. I know. And I sure as hell won't pretend I'm not in love with you. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? Jin-soo pushed off the counter and crossed to her, cupping her face with both hands. I love you. I've loved you since that first night when you walked up to me like you owned the world. I've loved you through every moment you've tried to convince yourself this was casual. And I'll keep loving you even if you walk out that door right now. Daphne's eyes filled with tears. Jin-soo. You don't have to say it back. But you need to know where I stand. His thumb brushed away a tear that escaped. I'm all in, Daphne. The question is whether you can be. She kissed him instead of answering, pouring 3 months of denial and fear and aching want into it. He kissed her back with the urgency of a man who'd been holding himself together for far too long, like she was home after years of wandering. They barely noticed the distance to the bedroom disappear, their movements frantic and unrestrained. His kisses followed the line of her neck and shoulder, drawing soft, unsteady breaths from her. Every touch felt like confession. Every sound he made, especially the way he said her name, felt like a promise. What followed wasn't gentle, but it was honest. A collision of emotion and need, the the kind that left her trembling and him breathless, both of them letting go of the tension they'd carried for months. Afterward, she curled against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, anchoring her. "I'm trying," she whispered, "to be brave enough." "I know." He pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "I'll wait." The Plaza Hotel glittered like a jewel box. Daphne smoothed her hands down the emerald silk of her gown, Ellie sobbed, her mother's choice, and tried to ignore the knot of anxiety in her stomach. The Lockwood Foundation's annual literacy fundraiser was the event of the season, the kind where Manhattan's elite gathered to write checks and air kiss and pretend they cared about causes between courses of Wagyu beef. She'd attended every year since she was 18. Usually with Tristan on her arm, playing the part of the perfect couple. This year, she told her parents she was coming alone. She hadn't mentioned that Jean Sue would be there. "You look beautiful," Simone whispered, appearing at her elbow in burgundy velvet. "And terrified. What's wrong?" "Jean Sue is here." Simone's eyes widened. "Here? At the plaza? Did you?" "No. I didn't invite him. But he's a donor to the foundation. His club made a significant contribution." Daphne had only discovered this yesterday when she'd seen the donor list. Velvet LLC had written a check for $100,000. He'd never mentioned it. "So what's the problem?" "The problem," Daphne said slowly, "is that Camilla Winprice just walked in, and she's been trying to destroy my family's reputation for 20 years. Camilla was old money in the worst way, the kind who believed in bloodlines and pedigree and keeping people like the Lockwoods at arm's length. She smiled with her mouth but never her eyes, donated to all the right causes, and wielded gossip like a scalpel. She was also the woman who'd had the most to say about Daphne's breakup with Tristan." "Oh no," Simone muttered. "She's coming over." Daphne straightened her spine and forced a smile as Camilla glided toward them, resplendent in white Valentino, her husband trailing behind like an accessory. "Daphne, darling." Air kisses that smelled like Chanel No. 5 and Venom. "How wonderful to see you. And looking so well after, well." A delicate pause. The unpleasantness with Tristan. "Thank you, Camilla. It's been a learning experience." "I'm sure." Camilla's smile sharpened. "Though I did hear you've been seen with someone new. Someone quite unconventional." Daphne's blood turned to ice. "Unconventional how?" Simone asked, voice deceptively sweet. "Oh, you know." Camilla waved a manicured hand. "Someone who doesn't exactly run in our circles. A nightclub owner, I believe? Covered in tattoos." She leaned in conspiratorially. "Really, Daphne, that's not the sort of match our community expects from the Lockwoods. Your poor mother must be mortified." The ballroom noise faded to a dull roar. Daphne felt the words like a slap, not because they were untrue, but because they voiced every fear she'd been harboring for months. That Jean Sue wasn't good enough. That he didn't belong. That being with him would tarnish her family's carefully maintained image. That she should be ashamed. And then, across the room, she saw him. Jean Sue stood near the bar, devastating in a black Armani tuxedo that had definitely been custom-made. His hair was styled back, tattoos hidden beneath expensive fabric, but there was no disguising what he was: dangerous, powerful, magnetic. He was speaking with someone, but his gaze found hers across the crowd like a compass finding north. He'd heard. She knew he had because she saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw tightened. He started to move toward her, but Daphne was faster. "Yes," she said, loud enough that nearby conversations paused. "I'm with him." Camilla blinked. "I'm sorry." "Hon Jean Sue. You're right, he owns a nightclub. Several, actually. He's also a major investor in tech, real estate, and hospitality. He's brilliant, generous, and kinder than any man I've ever met." Daphne lifted her chin, feeling her mother's strength in her spine. "And he's worth more than every man in this room combined." The silence spread like ripples in water. Camilla's face had gone carefully blank. "Daphne. If you'll excuse me, I should find my boyfriend." She emphasized the word, making it clear this wasn't casual. Wasn't temporary. Wasn't something to be ashamed of. Then she walked across the ballroom toward Jean Sue, aware of every eye tracking her movement. He met her halfway, and the look on his face, pride, relief, something that looked like love, made her breath catch. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Yes, I did." She took his hand, lacing their fingers together where everyone could see. "I'm done hiding." His smile was small but genuine. "Your parents are right there," Daphne said, noticing her mother and father watching from across the room. "And I think we should go talk to them." Harrison Lockwood was 6'2" of distinguished elegance, grey at his temples, with a kind of presence that made board rooms go silent. He'd built the family's wealth from comfortable to extraordinary through smart investments and smarter networking. He was also, Daphne had always thought, a good judge of character. "Mom, Dad," she said, throat tight. "This is Hon Jean-Sue. Jean-Sue, my parents, Harrison and Claudette Lockwood." Jean-Sue extended his hand. "Mr. Lockwood. Mrs. Lockwood. It's an honor to meet you." Her father shook his hand, assessing. Her mother's smile was warm but cautious. "Mr. Hon," Harrison said, "I understand your club made a generous contribution to our foundation. Education is important. Your foundation does good work. And you and my daughter are." Claudette let the question hang. "Together," Daphne said before Jean-Sue could answer. "We've been seeing each other for a few months." The pause felt eternal. Then her father said, "Well, any man who supports literacy and makes my daughter smile like that can't be all bad." He turned to Jean-Sue. "Though I'll be honest, I know your reputation, Mr. Hahn. I make it my business to know about powerful people in New York." Jean-Sue's expression didn't change. "I'm sure you do. I also know you've never been charged with a crime, you pay your taxes, and you employ over 200 people across your businesses." Harrison's eyes narrowed slightly. "What I don't know is whether you're good to my daughter." "Dad," Daphne started. "I love her, sir," Jean-Sue said simply. "And I'll spend every day proving I'm worth the risk she's taking on me." Claudette's expression softened. She looked at Daphne, then back at Jean-Sue. "My daughter has excellent judgment. If she loves you, that's enough for me to give you a chance." "We stand with our daughter," Harrison added firmly. "Always." Relief flooded through Daphne so strongly her knees almost buckled. It wasn't perfect acceptance, her father's mention of Jean-Sue's reputation made that clear. But it was loyalty. It was trust. It was love. "Thank you," Jean-Sue said quietly. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, people staring, whispers following them, but Daphne kept her hand in Jean-Sue's and held her head high. Let them talk. Let them judge. She was done caring. Camellia Wynne Price left early. Daphne noticed but didn't mention it. The next morning, Camilla walked into her corner office at Wynne Price Holdings to find a man sitting in her conference room. Hon Jean-Sue. Her blood turned to ice. "Mr. Hon. This is unexpected." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, Mrs. Wynne Price." She considered calling security. Then she remembered what she'd heard about this man, that he made grown men beg, that his reach extended into places most people didn't know existed, and she sat. Jean-Sue slid a folder across the polished mahogany. "What is this?" she asked. "Acquisition papers. I've purchased controlling interest in this company. The board voted unanimously this morning." Camilla's hands shook as she opened the folder. Her husband's signature was on the second page, next to several other board members she'd considered allies. "You can't. It's done." His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "You're dismissed, Mrs. Wynne Price. Effective immediately. Your severance package is generous, more than generous actually, but you're no longer welcome in this building." "This is about Daphne Lockwood." It wasn't a question. Jean-Sue stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. "This is about business. You've been underperforming for years, and the company needs new leadership." He paused at the door. "But yes. You don't speak about the woman I love. Ever." He left without waiting for a response. Camilla sat in her office, former office, and felt the world she'd carefully constructed crumble around her. The phone call came at 3 in the morning. Daphne fumbled for her phone, heart pounding. Jean-Sue stirred beside her, immediately alert in the way of men who'd learned to sleep with one eye open. "Hello? Daphne." Her mother's voice was shaking. Your father's been arrested. The world stopped. What? FBI. They came to the house an hour ago. They're saying he was involved in a Ponzi scheme, that he invested in it, profited from it. Sweetheart, they took him in handcuffs. Daphne was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. Where are you? I'm coming now. Federal Plaza. They won't let me see him yet. A pause. Daphne, this is going to be everywhere by morning. She hung up and turned to find Jin-Soo fully dressed, car keys in hand. I heard, he said. Let's go. By sunrise, it was a media circus. Prominent black investor arrested in $50 million fraud scheme. Lockwood family falls from grace. Elite investor accused of swindling friends and community. The story was everywhere. Cable news, Twitter, the front page of every major paper. Harrison Lockwood, pillar of the community, philanthropist, role model for black excellence in finance, had allegedly invested in a scheme that promised 30% annual returns and instead funneled millions into a criminal's pocket. Daphne watched the news footage of her father in handcuffs and felt bile rise in her throat. He didn't know, she told Jin-Soo, voice breaking. My father would never. He spent his whole career building trust. He'd never knowingly hurt people. I believe you. Jin-Soo pulled her close. Tell me about the investment. She walked him through what her mother had explained, a real estate development deal, recommended by a trusted friend, vetted by their usual advisors. The returns had seemed high but not impossible. Her father had invested his own money and recommended it to friends in the community. When it collapsed, everyone blamed him. Where's the man who ran it? Jin-Soo asked. Disappeared. The FBI can't find him. Jin-Soo's expression went cold. Give me his name. Jin-Soo. His name, Daphne. Gregory Holt. But what can you? Let me help you. He cupped her face gently. Trust me. Let me do what I do. She should have said no. Should have insisted they handle this through proper channels. Should have protected him from whatever line he was about to cross. Instead, she whispered, Gregory Holt. Last known address in Westchester. Jin-Soo kissed her forehead and made a phone call. 48 hours later, Daphne sat in her mother's kitchen, watching CNN destroy her father's reputation in real time, when Jin-Soo's name appeared on her phone. It's done, he said. What's done? Your father will be cleared by tomorrow morning. The evidence is being delivered to the FBI as we speak. Daphne's heart stuttered. How? Gregory Holt is in federal custody. Along with documentation of the entire scheme, a list of his actual co-conspirators, and proof that your father was a victim, not a participant. Where did you find him? A pause. You don't want to know. She probably didn't. But she asked anyway. Did you hurt him? I didn't lay a finger on him. I didn't need to. His voice was quiet. I found out which syndicate was hiding him and made them a better offer. They delivered him gift-wrapped. The rest was just persuasion. The implications of that, the networks Jin-Soo had access to, the power he wielded, the fact that he could make criminal organizations change their minds with a phone call, should have terrified her. Instead, she felt only gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. I'd do anything for you, Daphne. Anything. Her father was released the next afternoon. The charges were dropped with an apology from the prosecutor. The media, always hungry for the next story, pivoted immediately to praising Harrison Lockwood's integrity and expressing outrage that he'd been falsely accused. Gregory Holt pleaded guilty to 23 counts of fraud. The black community, which had been holding its collective breath, breathed again. The Lockwoods weren't just a symbol anymore, they were proof that standing strong in the face of injustice paid off. Except Daphne knew the truth. It wasn't the system that had saved her father. It was Jin-Soo. Her parents came to the penthouse a week later. Jin-Soo offered them tea with a formality that would have been charming if Daphne's stomach wasn't in knots. They sat in his living room, all floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive art, and for a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, her mother said, "We judged you before we knew you, Mr. Han." "Jin-Soo, please." "Jin-Soo." Claudette's smile was genuine. "Thank you for saving our family. We know what you did. And we know we can't repay that debt." There's no debt, Jin-soo said quietly. I love your daughter. What hurts her hurts me. Harrison leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've spent my whole career building a reputation on integrity. On doing things the right way, through the right channels. He met Jin-soo's eyes. But the right channels failed me. You didn't. Sir. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you come to me. Her father's voice was firm. Whatever I can do, whatever resources I have, they're yours. That's a promise. Jin-soo looked stunned. Mr. Lockwood, I appreciate that, but... No buts. You're family now. Harrison glanced at Daphne. Assuming that's where this is headed? Daphne's cheeks heated. Dad. It is, Jin-soo said. His hand found hers, warm and solid. If she'll have me. Claudette was crying happy tears. Harrison was smiling. And Daphne felt something unfurl in her chest, something that felt like coming home. That night, after her parents left, Daphne stood on Jin-soo's terrace, watching the city lights blur into constellations. He joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. You're thinking too loud, he murmured against her hair. I'm thinking about how scared I was. She turned in his arms to face him. How much I cared what people thought. How I almost let fear keep me from this. You were protecting yourself. There's no shame in that. But there is shame in not being brave enough to choose what I want. She cupped his face, feeling the scratch of stubble against her palms. I don't want to hide anymore. Not from my family, not from the world, not from myself. His eyes searched hers. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. I've loved you for months, but I was too scared to admit it. The words tumbled out, unstoppable. I'm saying I want to be yours. Publicly. Proudly. I want everyone to know. Jin-soo's breath caught. Are you sure? Because once you say this, I'm not letting you take it back. I'm sure. She kissed him, soft and sweet. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to argue about what to watch on Netflix. I want to attend boring charity events with you and laugh about the ridiculous speeches after. I want your family to meet mine. I want. He kissed her before she could finish, deep and desperate and perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. Move in with me. What? Move in with me. Officially. Bring all your stuff. Take over the whole closet. Fill the place with your books and your candles and that ridiculous throw pillow collection. Daphne laughed through sudden tears. That's a terrible idea. It's the best idea I've ever had. You'll get sick of me. Impossible. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I've been waiting for you my whole life, Daphne Lockwood. I'm not letting you go now. Then I guess I'm moving in. He lifted her off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing like idiots, and Daphne thought, this is what happiness feels like. They came together that night with a different kind of intensity, not the frantic hunger of the beginning, but something deeper, steadier, almost reverent. Every touch felt like a promise. Every kiss felt like a claim spoken in a language only the two of them understood. Jin-soo moved with deliberate care, as if he were memorizing her, committing every reaction to heart. The way she breathed his name. The way her hands trembled when he held her close. The way she opened to him with trust she hadn't given anyone in years. He watched her with a focus that made her feel seen down to her bones, as if this moment mattered to him in a way nothing else ever had. I love you, she whispered, emotion cresting through her. His breath hitched. Say it again. I love you. I love you, she said, the words tumbling out like truth finally freed. Mine, he murmured softly, emotion rough in his voice. You're mine, Daphne. Yours, she breathed. Always yours. When the tension finally released between them, it felt less like losing control and more like finding something they'd both been reaching for in the dark. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Daphne felt a quiet peace settle over her, warm, grounding, absolute. She was home. 1 year later, Daphne stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the sapphire necklace Jin-soo had given her for their first anniversary. Are you ready? He called from the bedroom. Almost. She stepped out to find him in a tuxedo, looking so devastatingly handsome that she forgot how to breathe. He'd shaved recently, the sharp lines of his jaw on full display, and his eyes tracked her movement like a predator watching prey. "You're staring," she teased. "Can't help it. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." "You're biased." "Completely." He crossed to her and pulled her close. "But also correct." They were attending another charity gala, this time for arts education, and for the first time, Daphne felt no anxiety about it. Let people stare. Let them whisper. She was done caring. At the gala, her parents greeted them warmly. Her father clapped Jean Sue on the shoulder like an old friend. Her mother pulled Daphne aside and whispered, "He's going to propose soon." "I can tell. Mom. Mark my words." Claudette winked. Daphne tried not to think about it, but her heart raced anyway. They danced under crystal chandeliers, Jean Sue's hand warm on her lower back. People watched, but the whispers had changed. Now they spoke of the Lockwood daughter who'd found love with the mysterious businessman, of the unlikely couple who seemed perfect together. "What are you thinking about?" Jean Sue asked, spinning her gently. "How lucky I am. I'm the lucky one." "We're both lucky," she compromised. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Fair enough." Later, when they stepped onto the terrace for air, Jean Sue pulled her close and kissed her in full view of the ballroom windows. Daphne kissed him back, not caring who saw, not caring what anyone thought. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, "I'm glad we're not a secret anymore." Jean Sue's smile was soft, tender, full of love. "You were never a secret to me, Daphne. You were always the only thing that mattered." He cupped her face and kissed her again, and Daphne thought about how close she'd come to losing this, how fear had almost stolen her happiness. But she'd been brave. She'd chosen love. And love had chosen her back. "Take me home," she murmured against his lips. "Always," he promised. And he did.